Hi there! The more advanced the technology, the more fantastic the worlds become on the big screen. Already the work of cinematic greats who made a revolution in cinema with the first King Kong and Travels to the Moon are greeted with a respectful but restrained smile. In the age of digital graphics, robots, and special effects, any of us can be turned into Godzilla or Davy Jones, and the mountain or house can be moved across continents or sent into space without leaving the film set. We perceive all these wonders as an amazing feat, while in reality, it is just routine work on the set, and it looks less epic and spectacular. Prometheus. This film was released in 2012, and a year later, won an Oscar for the best visual effects. There is a huge amount of them in the film, although some of the large and important paraphernalia was made to real scale, and it was made masterfully. These are the operating models of the all-terrain vehicles, the Captain Bridge of Prometheus, the interior of the ship, the pyramids, and of course the giant head engineer. Mimicry and episodes at the junction of figures and mechanics were worked out with surgical precision. The scene with the engineer was filmed in 2 stages. Now you see a moment in which the actor is filmed with complex silicone makeup. Next, the backdrops were removed on which the engineer model was laid down, but the key scene in which the creator breaks up into molecules, drinking a beaker with a black liquid, was installed by the New Zealand company Weta Digital, familiar to us from The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and the first part of Avatar. To create the effect of presence, the guys built a 3D model of the circulatory system based on the process of real rupture of capillaries, after the simulator was combined with a 3-dimensional character model. In total, the number of scenes built on special effects exceeded 1,400. Godzilla. What could be cooler than a huge lizard with thorns and a nuclear reactor on board? For the first time, this dinosaur rose from the depths on the ocean in 1954, and since then has managed to become part of the national Japanese culture. Then, models of objects, including urban infrastructure, were created manually and worked through the smallest details. The first costumes that actors wore weighed up to 200 pounds. Familiar to us is Godzilla's heartbreaking roar. It's nothing more than a sound made by a double bass strings after touching the glove and processing in the studio. In the 2014 Hollywood interpretation, the visual effects were taken over by the moving picture company, familiar to us from Man of Steel and Prometheus. Most of the battle scenes were created using animation and computer modeling. And in reality, the water area, the falling planes and ships, the glowing city blocks, and the mega monsters themselves never existed. After all, this is only a projection on the studio chroma key. Jurassic World. The continuation of the story about ancient reptiles that went out of control collected more than $1.5 billion at the box office, and as you guessed, the focus of the viewer was again not actors, but reptiles, and of course, special effects. Wherever possible, digital animation changes the boring landscape and enlivens prehistoric dinosaurs. But still, without people behind the scenes, this could not be done. This group of actors got the role of young velociraptors. They had to learn the lessons of choreography and hang-in motion sensors. And these guys are even less fortunate. They got the role of the Triceratops operated on children's rides. I wonder how much they paid for it. And you probably remember the epic scene in which T-Rex splits the gyrosphere with children. In fact, the extreme moments were shot in the studio, and the simulator coped immaculately with the role of a futuristic gyrosphere. By the way, how do you like this type of transport? Would it be cool somewhere in the future to ride this in the city? One of the most serious challenges for operators and the entire film crew of the film Gravity was just this: gravity, which should not have been in the frame. After all, the traditional Hollywood ways to achieve the desired effect, such as hanging on cables, were suitable only for 20% of interior shots inside the ship, and the remaining 80% of the time the actors had to spend outside it. Remembering that the new is a well-forgotten old, engineers have upgraded the classic cylinder. Now the legs and the pelvis of the actors were fixed in a round mobile frame, which allowed them to imitate the chaotic rotation in a vacuum. To synchronize the lighting on the set, 3 special devices arrived, which ensured the movement of objects in any planes. 2 of them involved under the light, and the third secured a high-resolution camera, and it has allowed to achieve the effect of presence, inaccessible for motion capture technology. In the same place where it didn't save, it was rescued by virtual surveys and in some places classical suspension systems. As a result, the film took not 1 Oscar, but 7. Christopher Nolan's Interstellar is one of the projects that without the help of computer graphics and special effects would never have come out on the big screen. According to the plot of the film, the main characters set off to save humanity from inevitable death. Having traveled a long way to the Black Sphere, they used it to migrate to another galaxy, and that's where they will have to face a black hole and other troubles. Of course, the protagonist never had any close contact with the hole. His nightmare on the screen reproduced a 3D model built specifically for the film by famous astrophysicist Kip Thorne. By the way, as explained by Thorne, Interstellar, this is the first film in history to work on the visualization, which began with the equation of Einstein. Now let's talk about the classics. Terminator 2: Judgment Day. First of all, I would like to say for the film released in 1991, it was truly incredible. In total, more than 1,000 people took part in the creation of this masterpiece, including the film crew, stuntmen, and pyrotechnicians. From the production of extreme scenes, mechanical copies of almost every actor were made, and this was very useful because sometimes the bullets were real. For filming the scene of Sarah's nightmare, several copies were made at once that were burned in a fire after a nuclear explosion. But still, the success of James Cameron's mega hit was largely determined by the main anti-hero, the guy from the liquid metal T-1000. He's Robert Patrick. When the requirements of the scene went beyond the limits of the mechanics, the team of animators came to the rescue. To produce an accurate and realistic copy of T-1000, Robert Patrick had to take more than 1,000 shots. In essence, the T-1000 is largely the result of hard work of the best rendering and lighting specialists of that time. Passengers is a romantic blockbuster that was released in December 2016. On board the intergalactic liner are Jim and Aurora, who woke up not quite in time, or rather, 90 years ahead of time. And while the remaining 4,998 passengers were in hibernation mode, the main characters had to survive, save the mission, and even think about creating a family. And sometimes the only way to get rid of boredom was to pass time in the company of bartender android Arthur. In the story, he had to move behind the desk quickly and smoothly. For this, a mechanical installation was created, which moved Arthur in green tights on rails and synchronized with the camera. The exterior of the ship, large-scale scenes at the beginning of the film, and the climax in outer space were worked out in 3D. But to create the necessary lighting effects, technicians needed to create a special light box. This is something like a big green box onto which a virtual picture was projected. It was this that was used to concentrate the luminous flux on Jim's face when shooting the scene of falling into outer space. That's all for today. Click like if you like this video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.